You're listening to Parasearch Radio, news, views and reviews from the world of the paranormal from across the UK and beyond. Find us on Facebook, Twitter and the World Wide Web. Parasearch UK Radio. Parasearch Radio, broadcasting to the UK and beyond.
The views and opinions expressed by presenters and guests are their own and do not necessarily reflect the official policy or position of Parasearch Radio or its affiliates and sponsors. Listener discretion is advised. You're listening to Kerry Greenaway and Mark Manley on the Dark Mirror Paranormal Show, only on Parasearch Radio.
Good evening and welcome to the Dark Mirror Paranormal Show. My name is Kerry Greenaway. I'm one of your hosts for this evening. I'm also joined in the studio by my lovely Mark Manley. Good evening, Mark.
Good evening, Kerry. How the very devil are you?
I'm absolutely fine, thank you. And yourself?
Oh, yeah, I'm always fine. You know me. Gorgeous and lovely and always fine.
And we're also joined by the voice of reason, Mr. Andy Mercer. Good evening, Andy.
The voice of reason, that's interesting. Hello, how are things going over there?
We're all good, thank you. Now, tonight's show is all about curses.
Doesn't mean you've got carte blanche to swear your head off all the time.
So tempted to swear at that point in time. So tempted.
Just change the words to like elephant or gun.
Now, this is a subject that we talked a little bit about last night on the Paramania show with Jay Lynch. And if you missed that show, you can catch it up as it's now on demand over on Paramania. But we started off talking a little bit about a idol that was supposed to be a cursed voodoo doll. But then that got me down, you know what I'm like. I go down little avenues and it got me looking at various curses. Now, obviously, there are some really, really famous curses out there that I thought we'd have a look at. And then actually break it down a little bit and actually find out, are curses real? Can a curse actually be a thing? That's what I thought we'd talk about tonight, laddios.
Absolutely.
Okay.
So the first...
Go on.
The first one, let's have a look at the curse of Macbeth.
You just said that live on radio. You said that name.
I know. I have no fear of the name.
What computer's going to fill up?
Sorry, Andy.
I say we're not actors, we're safe. So tell us more about it then, Gail.
Okay, well, the curse of Macbeth started from the very first day it got launched. Now, you're not supposed to say the name. You're supposed to say that play or the Scottish play. You're not supposed to whistle on the stage. And when I looked into this, now, the litany of disaster that befalls this play is absolutely astonishing. Okay, now, you all know the play Macbeth. We all know it. And basically, since 1606... which is when it got released, when it very first got released, it just basically, every single time, there's something that happens, death and serious injury and all sorts. Now, I literally found a rundown from the very first right through to latter day. I'm going to just mention a few. So let's start where it all started from. Now... where do we go with this one? Now, it originally had music and dancing in it, would you believe? I can't believe this. Now, in 1794, the original text was restored and it was played, and the actor playing Macbeth sustained a near-fatal stab wound. But apparently, now I did not know this, guys, they used to use real weapons.
Mm-hmm.
I never knew that.
Well, I suppose more dramatic and real.
Well, Macbeth was written sometime between 1605 and 1611, and the original legend was that the first ever showing of the play, which was supposedly on August the 7th, 1606, the lady who played Lady Macbeth was supposed to have died on opening night.
Loads of people have died on stage, by the side of the stage. It's absolutely crazy. When you start reading about it, so many people have died. Now, the reason I mentioned that they used to use real weapons was because in one particular... you know me and my inappropriate humour. This could come into play tonight because I found this quite humorous. I know. Now, on one of the showings back in 1794, they were using these real weapons, and they had this fight between Macbeth and Macduff. And Macduff, the guy who was playing Macduff, came away with no thumbs.
Is that what happened to me? Am I a reincarnation of that bloke?
Honest to goodness me. I mean, how... Can you imagine? I just can't... Well, I mean, seriously, it made me... It did make me laugh out loud. Now, in 1937, the production at the Old Vic in London, the director... Now, I love this. This is the thing about curses. Any misfortune that takes part of anybody involved in the production... Any misfortune, I'd like to emphasise the word misfortune, is then put down to said curse, right? The director nearly got killed in a car crash. The lady who was playing Lady Macbeth got badly bruised. The star of the production, who was Laurence Olivier, had lost his voice and almost died when a weight from the stage lights came tumbling down. The founder of the theatre, Lillian Bayliss, had a heart attack and died on the opening night. And also, later on in the production, a member of the audience was hit by a fragment of Olivia's sword and also died of a heart attack. That's just in one run in the 1937 production. And it goes on and on and on. The wartime production of Macbeth, the third witch fell ill and died of a heart attack during the final rehearsal. The actor playing King Duncan died of angina. A witch was dancing around the cauldron but couldn't maintain the tempo of the music.
I'm sorry. I've just got visions of them going dugga around the cauldron and going, oh,
That's kind of exactly what happened. That's kind of exactly what happened. She died on stage.
Oh, she didn't fall in the cauldron, did she?
No, she just... She collapsed and died. Oh. And then the set designer, actually committed suicide as well. And every single...
It's all her fault.
Sorry?
Everything is all her fault. All these things going wrong with the set and people falling over and dying and getting hurt. The set designer probably thought, oh my God, it's all my fault when he jumped off the stage.
Another person who died on stage, very famous person, totally nothing to do with this, but Sid James, he died on stage, sat on a sofa.
Oh, so did... Henry Cooper, but it's not cursed, is it?
Tommy Cooper.
Tommy.
Sorry. It was a boxer. I think he's.
I remember seeing that when it happened, and we all thought it was part of the act.
Blimey.
Oh,
I digress.
Yes, we digress. But literally every single time this play has been put on, it has had a litany of disaster of people dying. Now, allegedly, and this is where Andy Mercer comes in, because when Shakespeare... Oh, that's my dog. I do apologise. When Shakespeare was supposed to have written the play, the witches' incantations that he wrote was supposed to have been based on real-life things, real-life spells and stuff.
I see. Okay. Well, that's entirely possible, although difficult to verify because there's obviously very little in the way of written records of spells and incantations of that time. So it's entirely possible it was exactly based on a very real one, or it was completely made up by him. There's no real way of absolutely knowing. But, okay, there's been occasions when things have happened, unfortunate things have happened during the performance of that play, but not every time. Most of vast majority, I'm sure, had absolutely no problems whatsoever. So, but of course, because it's already got that reputation, any occurrences that are going to be strange and peculiar around it are going to be highlighted because it's already got the reputation. But it's entirely possible he was using something that was very real and that was around at the time. Whether it really does have any effect, of course, that's another kettle of bananas. So,
well,
I'll tell you something
James.
else. Oh, okay.
Sorry, Mark. Carry on.
I was just going to say, another thing to do with Macbeth. Did you know that the night before his assassination, President Lincoln read Macbeth?
I didn't know that.
Yep.
Ooh, we could put that down to the curse too. That sounds great. We can add that into the myth.
Yeah.
Well, King James himself, who actually commissioned the play, had previously published a book on witches and how to detect them.
Mm-hmm.
And
Quite
Macbeth wrote this to please the king. And the opening scene of Macbeth, which I'm sure you all know.
When
we three meet again.
Lightning or in rain. Yes.
That's right. That's the one, lads. I'm impressed by your acting skills, I must say.
We don't want to break up things. You can't act it. You have to just sort of say it in a very bad way.
You have to sort of say it in a crone's voice, don't you? Well, he apparently, that's the point. He reproduced the sacred black magic ritual.
There is no of, yes.
Now, what I found actually more interesting about this alleged curse was I found lots about the curse when it's a stage play, but there are at least two films that I know of Macbeth, and there are no...
There's a Japanese version of it as well.
Is there really? Oh my goodness.
It's called The Throne of Blood. Yes.
Oh.
Lovely.
About samurais.
That's not Macbeth then, is it?
Well, but now basically they all stand there and go, and another one comes in, bows, chops his head off. That's it. It's the end of it.
Okay.
Fair enough.
He doesn't really. But there is The Throne of Blood, which is the Japanese version of it. And they do go, a lot. So, yeah.
Oh, okay. Anyway, the two that I know of, which was a Roman Polanski version and the most latest version that got released, which was awful. Very atmospheric, but not particularly understandable. There were no unfortunate circumstances around that, so it only seems to affect the stage play.
Well, there is a legend behind it, isn't there? There's supposed to be a coven of witches that curse the play for eternity in revenge for Shakespeare's apparent inclusion of spoken spells, which he wasn't supposed to do. Whether you believe that or not, it's entirely up to you, but what I would like to say is back in the 1600s, whatever William Shakespeare was smoking, it brought out some good plays. Carry on.
Well, it's a question, of course, whether you'd even consider what's in the play to be spells, and they're just sort of random kind of the origin of things that I Am Mutant, Ear of Toad, and that kind of nonsense comes from that. But it's again, looking into proper research of this kind of time frame, King James's book, which you're referring to, was written as a reaction to a book by brain's gone, Michael Scott. The Discovery of Witchcraft, which does indeed include a lot of spells and incantations in its expanded edition, which came out, but that didn't come out until after the play was written in 1665, is when that expansion came out. The earlier version has got definite references to spells and magic in it, but not as clear-cut, shall we say, or as obvious as the additional material that came out later on. So there was certainly a collection of spells around. Now, the Discovery of Witchcraft was written as proof that witchcraft was nonsense and rubbish and shouldn't be taken seriously. But he also, as I say, included within the book lots of examples of so-called spells and charms to demonstrate, well, as far as he was concerned, to demonstrate the non-technical nature of these things. But it was the first time in English language they'd been written down, and James's book was a rebuttal of Michael Scott's. Is Michael Scott? Hold on 2 seconds. It's Scott.
Great Scott!
Reginald Scott. Michael Scott's another writer, also written about witchcraft. But Reginald Scott's Discover Witchcraft was the first time such things were actually written down to any length or degree. And King James's book on demons came out afterwards as a kind of rebuttal of that. So you've got the Macbeth play appearing with supposed incantations and spells in it around about the same time, and sort of stepping into a bit of an area of controversy because King James had many copies of Reginald Scott's book burnt because it was contains black magic as far as he was concerned, and he was very concerned about the dangers of such things. So I can see the angle that's being played there in the kind of legendary stuff about the spells and the play being cursed because of it, but I don't know it's necessarily because of the witches being upset. There's more as part of the kind of politics that were going on around the same time. So
there was also the riot that was caused because of the play in 1849 in New York City. I don't know if you know about that.
No, I don't know a lot, no. But I would imagine by that time the whole curse idea was very well established anyway, so we'll play a part of that.
What happened was New York City's Astor Opera House in 1849. Basically, there was people who liked one actor and people who liked another actor.
Oh.
And 22 people died in this riot, all because some people happened to be walking past the theatre with glasses and bottles, and they were fans of the American actor Edwin Forrest. And the Astor Theatre, or Astor Opera House, happened to be doing their version of that particular play with English actor William McCready. And so the two lots went, cheers! See you, Jimmy! And they had a big scrap, and 22 people died, all because of somebody playing the lead role in that particular play.
So do we put that down to the curse as well?
Oh, I just put it down to the curse of the whiskey.
Yes.
Yeah. Where was that again, Mark?
That was the Astor Theatre, Astor Opera House in New York.
In New York?
Yeah, it was the Astor Opera House in New York, and it was in 1849.
Okay, one wonders why you went Scottish, that's all. I know it's the Scottish play, but...
Because it was the whiskey, it said, you know, you keep up, love.
I'm just curious, you know. I went off on a tangent up to Scotland there. Now, when I was looking at Macbeth, now I studied Macbeth for my literature exam that I did. And I happen to love Macbeth as a play. It sort of ticks a lot of boxes for me. There's a lot of gore, there's witches, there's incantations, there's greed, there's women's wiles, there's all sorts of things in there. I love it. I think it's one of the best plays that Macbeth wrote, other than Twelfth Night. That's my ultimate favourite.
I can remember I had to translate a passage as part of my GCSE.
It is one that we study at school, or generally.
There's a steaming goal at battle, I see. Yeah.
It used to be, anyway. Now, when you look at it on a whole, it does only, like I said, it does only seem to be the theatre play. But
you can't
do you
look
not
it
find
on a whole? You would drop it. It would fall down. You'd never see it again.
Do you not think that stage plays? I glossed that.
There, Mark.
I know, I just glossed it. Do you not think, though, that actors are very superstitious people anyway?
They are. They're all the ones the people who started off on the theatre or on the stage and then move into films. They're all, oh, love you, darling. Oh, you can't say that, darling. Oh, no. You know, and as you were saying, the set decorators and set makers and everything, they're not allowed to whistle on stage.
Well, yeah, touch wood, they'd be fine. They're not superstitious at all.
And there's another one, touch wood.
That's true. I love a superstition, me. Now, that's sort of like that one. So we looked at the curse of Macbeth and laughed copiously about poor people's misfortunes that occurred quite a lot. As I say, inappropriate humour that I have. We've come across this in the torture show. We did come across this in the torture show.
Yes, we did. Yes, there was. Yes, especially the pair of despair and where it's placed. But
now, leading on, let's move along swiftly moving on. Now, looking at plays and actors and stuff like that, I also came across quite a few alleged curses in regards to films. So we bring the actor and the media factor. This is where I'm going with this, the media factor of this. Because one thing you have to keep firmly in your mind is that if there's almost like a dark resonance to something, it seems to heighten the media. They like to take an angle, don't they, and run with it. And this has happened. It happened a lot in the 1970s. Because in the 1970s, there was a huge resurgence of horror films.
Yeah.
And
I know where you're going with this.
I know you do. There was The Omen.
Yeah.
And that has got an alleged curse.
Yeah.
Poltergeist has a curse.
Yeah. Carol O'Rourke, yeah.
That's right. There's another one as well, isn't there?
There's lots, actually. Shall we start with...
The Exorcist.
Well, I've got the top 6, anyway.
You've got the top 6. Okay, you tell me about the top 6 then, Mark.
Let me go to... Right. First of all, you've got the Poltergeist curse, which I think pretty much everybody knows about. Poor old Carol O'Rourke wasn't... No, Heather O'Rourke, that was her name, the little girl. She appeared in all 3 films, but unfortunately she died halfway through the 3rd one being made. She went to hospital suffering from what they thought was flu symptoms. Fortunately, she died later on the operating table due to complications. And they still don't know what it was. And then, do you remember the really scary old guy in Poltergeist 2?
Mm-hmm.
Well, he died, didn't he? Because they were trying to bring him back in 3, and he died, unfortunately, of cancer.
Well, he was fairly old at the time, so not
he
bad.
was. He was knocking on a bit. And then there was a Native American actor, Will Sampson. He died whilst under the knife whilst he was having an operation. And what else? Dominique Dune, who played the eldest child. She was strangled to death by her boyfriend the same year the film was released.
I think the first one closely associated with the film to die, and say it was a boyfriend murderer.
Yeah, and then the most tenuous link. So this is really shaky. According to a noted expert on the film, Jo Beth Williams, who played the mother, Diane Freeling, claims she returned home from the set each day to find pictures on her wall askew. She'd straighten them out, only to find them crooked again the next day. Personally, if that was me, I'd be looking straight at my youngest daughters going, "You stop doing that, you're freaking me out." You know?
Leave it alone.
That's true. Now,
Yeah.
The Exorcist.
Yeah.
Before that film was released, this is actually something that again interested me intensely. Was before the film was released, they were looking at changing the name because they did a survey, and not many people knew what an exorcist was.
Right.
Then they did the film. They did call it The Exorcist. It's infamous. We all know The Exorcist and the green pea sick thing and all the rest of it. It's been parodied endlessly. Yeah, but now everybody knows what an exorcist is. And this actually is the point I believe demonology sort of like birthed.
Certainly the idea, of course, of the Ouija board being evil comes entirely from The Exorcist.
Well, the worst film out of all of them that's ever had so-called curses is The Omen.
Yes. Do you want to talk to us about The Omen, Mark?
Entirely up to you, my dear. Well, I'll give you a few bits. During filming, scriptwriter David Seltzer's plane was hit by lightning, and as was Gregory Peck's plane, and as was executive producers Mace Newfield's plane.
Were they on the same plane?
Yeah, no, different planes.
Three
different
planes.
There
Lightning
was
strikes
IRA.
were quite prevalent in the Omen curse.
I remember that. There was IRA bombings. A hotel that Newfield was staying in was bombed by the IRA, as was a restaurant that the director and actors were scheduled to eat at as well. Luckily, nobody died. Special effects consultant John Richardson wasn't quite so lucky because, on Friday the 13th of August 1976, Richardson crashed his car in Holland. His assistant was sliced in half by the car's front wheel. Scrambling out of the wreckage, Richardson looked up and saw a road sign and one of the film's tiger handlers died as well. And then Gregory Peck's son shot himself, and a plane that was scheduled to be used in the film was rescheduled and used for a commercial flight instead, crashed and killed everybody on board. Hey-ho! Happy-go-lucky film.
Well, there was also something else I found out about that particular film. Okay, now listen to this. This turns it into the eerie. Of all the things, if you look into the Curse of the Omen, there's, again, a litany of disaster that goes through the film. But this is by far the freakiest. Okay? Now, Richardson... the producer, Harvey Bernard, was well aware of the Hollywood gossip that had, regarding cursed films and stuff like that. And he started wearing a cross on set. He said he wasn't going to take any chances, and that's a quote. Now, he says about 30 years after the film, he says, the devil was at work and he didn't want that film made. We were dealing in areas we didn't know about, and later on in the picture it got worse and worse and worse. Now, Bob Munger, who was the man who came up with the idea of the film in the very, very beginning, had misgivings about doing the film to start with, and he warned Harvey, and he said, if you make, this is a quote, if you make this movie, you're going to have some problems. If the devil's greatest single weapon is to be invisible, and you're going to do something which is going to take away his invisibility to millions of people, he's not going to want that to happen. And then they had so many problems whilst making that film, it was untrue.
Well, the thing I find really spooky was that guy basically getting chopped in half by the wheel. And if you guys remember, in one of the films, they ran with that idea, didn't they? The van crashed and the sheet glass came through and chopped him in half. Or chopped his head off, that's right.
Yeah, decapitation, wasn't it?
Yeah.
And that's what happened in an accident.
He was the photographer, wasn't he?
I think if I saw that, I'd have an accident and wet myself as well.
Sorry, Andy, what was you saying?
I'd say that was the Davy Warner character in the first film. He was the photographer who first captured the images of people being sliced apart. Then he got his own picture of himself with his a black line through his neck. And then, of course, they say later in the film he actually died by having his head sliced off.
Right, yeah. I remember that. All the photos had the bits in that.
Yes.
Like the vicar, wasn't it, with the church spire?
Yeah, the dark sort of marks where the person was going to be killed, in what way or form,
Okay, now the sign that, in the accident that you were talking about, Mark, the sign that was seen, he looked up, didn't he? The accident happened, he got out the car and saw that his, his passenger was decapitated. The sign reads, allegedly, I haven't been able to verify this fact, but the sign allegedly reads, Omen, spelt O-M-M-E-N, 66.6 kilometres.
That sounds pretty ridiculous.
It does, doesn't it? I mean, if that was true, then blimey. But if it wasn't, then even so, it definitely adds credence to the legend, doesn't it?
It does. Now, I did manage to find out that Omen, O-M-M-E-N, is in fact the name of a city in the Netherlands.
Well,
by any chance be near where the crash happened?
So where did the crash happen?
I was going to say, that's the bit I wasn't able to verify in regards to the 66.6 kilometres, in all honesty. But it's not...
I'm looking at it now. You saw a road sign. Omen, 66.6 kilometres.
Exactly. Now, I wasn't able to verify whether that was a fact or whether that was a media-driven thing, because this is the other factor. The media do like to take something like this and angle it and then change the facts just a little bit, not enough to make you go, that's not right. I nearly said a rude word there. I nearly said a curse word there. I know. They like to and just tweak it so it makes it more eerie. It makes it more fitting to the curse.
I like tweaking it as well sometimes, but normally my other half just slaps me and says, stop it.
We're going down that road, are we, tonight?
We are.
Okay. Now, on that note of the Curse of the Omen film, it's believe it or not, that's already time to take a quick break.
Really? We haven't touched on Rosemary's Baby or Superman yet.
Oh my God, I know there is so many different curses, and we are going to just have to gloss over quite a few of them. But we need to take a quick break, so bear with us. We'll be right back after this.
Have a break. Have a kick.
Hello, Harry Price here. Good evening. If there's nothing myself and everybody else enjoy here on the other side more is to sit back and relax and listen to Parasearch Radio with its paranormal news, views and reviews from across the UK and beyond. Make sure to find out more about them on Facebook, Twitter and the World Wide Web, whatever they are, to keep up to date with all their broadcasts throughout the week. And I hope you enjoy them as much as we do over here. Hello? Is anybody there?
Welcome back. You are listening to the Dark Mirror Show. Tonight we are discussing curses. I am joined in the studio by Mark Manley, as always, and our lovely Andy Mercer. Now, before the break, we were looking at the curse of films. We looked at Macbeth, we looked at The Omen, we touched on The Exorcist, and we've touched on the Poltergeist films. Now, there's another really, really, really famous curse, which isn't a horror movie at all. It is Superman.
Yes. Yes, I can feel my lack of hair going into one curl in the middle of my forehead now.
Now, this actually fascinates me. Lots of things fascinate me at the moment, but the Superman curse. Now, we all love Superman, don't we? Superman's a hero. He's a force for good. There's nothing wrong with Superman. There's no curse or, cursed Native American burial grounds. There's no demons. There's no devil worship. There's no incantations. It is like a force for the good. So why is my question, would Superman be cursed?
Because it all starts with the original Superman, George Reeves, who played Superman in the the TV series, the black and white one, in the 1950s, The Adventures of Superman. He was found dead in 1959 with a so-called self-inflicted gunshot wound to the head. But although his death was...
Sorry.
Bless you!
Sorry.
Although his death was ruled suicide, his fingerprints were never actually found on the gun. So unless he was extremely bendy and flexible and shot himself with his feet, I reckon it might have been murder somehow.
Do you not have toe prints?
There was nothing. There was no prints found on the gun.
No, but do you not have toe prints?
Yeah.
Well then, even if he managed to do it with his foot, it'd still be a print.
Well, it'd be quite
Well, you would have thought that. I mean, if it wasn't his feet and it wasn't his hands, what could he have used to pull the trigger? Is that why he was called Superman?
Well, that could be the reason.
I ain't going to go there. And then there's Christopher Reeve, who, unfortunately, as you know...
Hold on. What about Jerry Siegel?
Is he?
Jerry Siegel found out they were making a movie and he wasn't very happy about it. And he took public revenge and wrote a letter to the newspapers saying to the board of directors at Warner Brothers that they had ruined his career. And he said, I, Jerry Siegel, the co-originator of Superman, I put a curse on Superman movie.
It was both of them who did it.
This is where this comes from, this alleged curse. From the
Jerry
guy.
Siegel and Joe Shuster, the two people who created Superman.
Yeah, because they didn't make a lot of money out of it at all. When you think it's a multi-million-dollar franchise now, Superman.
I mean, exactly. I mean, to excuse my language a little bit, both of them were completely screwed out of their royalties. Very, very bad contracts and everything. And that's why both of them turned around and said, you're going to make this film, you've taken all our money away, you've done us out of millions, I curse your film, I curse your actors, I curse everything on it. And that's what happened.
I know. I mean, the most famous one, obviously, is Christopher Reeve. Bless him.
Oh, poor guy.
Yeah, completely poor. He never had another successful film after the Superman movies. He had a serious horse riding accident, which is well documented, that left him paralysed. And then the lady that played Lois Lane, Margot Kidder, she also had a car accident in 1990, and that caused her medical bills caused her to become bankrupt. And she ended up, I find this absolutely horrifying. A year later, She was sleeping rough, an alcoholic, and severely paranoid. So she had mental health disorders as well.
She had bipolar, didn't she?
Well, she had mental health disorders, whatever way you want to look at it. From, you know, were they hit by the curse, those two leading people? I mean, Marlon Brando appeared in the 1977 film for 9 minutes. That's all it was, 9 minutes. And his son, which I think is a bit of a stretch, quite frankly, to link to the curse. But anyway, his son was convicted of murder after shooting his sister's boyfriend and his daughter.
Well, I know Marlon Brando basically, after his filming career, decided to withdraw himself from society and dedicated his life to becoming one of the fattest men on earth. So, you know, you could put that down to the curse.
Mm-hmm. Not just that, but Lee Quigley, this was the boy that played the baby Superman. He died at 14 years old due to solvent abuse. Richard Pryor, who was the highest paid black actor at the time for Superman 3, then spent the next 20 years battling multiple sclerosis. But to be fair, I don't think you could put that down to a curse. I think that's just bad luck.
This is right. There's also, I mean, there's other people. You got people who starred in like the spin-offs and this, or different adaptations, and their careers have just crashed afterwards. Dean Cain played Superman in Lois and Clark. Mm-hmm. His career went. Terry Hatcher, same with her.
No, she revived, though. She came back, old Terry.
Only in Desperate Housewives, that was it.
And she was in a Bond movie. So what do we think, Andy? Where are we going with this? Because, you know...
Well, the problem is, of course, we're talking about films that have apparently had curses put upon them by somebody, and then things happen. But I wouldn't mind betting lots of money that for every one film that has happened, there's 10 it hasn't happened, i.e. someone's cursed and nothing's happened, nothing's gone wrong. So we're only highlighting the few that we know seem to have a possible connection, whereas there could be a vast numbers where someone's cursed it and nothing's happened at all, and the films are perfectly fine. I mean, someone might have cursed Star Wars. We look at the difference that's made, that's done fine. So it's only the few that appear to have had people say things about it, and then there appears to be things happening to it. So it could just be coincidence.
It could just be coincidence.
You want to know the dodgiest link I've found to the Superman one?
Go on then.
Shock us. Go on.
Right. According to inside sources, John F. Kennedy's staff approved of a Superman story in which the hero touts the president's physical fitness initiatives, and the story was basically scheduled to be published in April 1964. And on November the 22nd, Kennedy was shot and killed, and basically people are trying to link the Superman curse to JFK, which, quite frankly, is one of the most stupid things I've ever heard of in my life. I mean, apart from them saying that he was killed by people who came from the future to stop him trying to do World War III with Fidel Castro and Russia, that's got to be amongst the top 10 of stupidest things I've ever heard.
Yeah, pretty much right there.
Yeah. This is like, really? There's also Rosemary's Baby as well.
Okay, you're determined to talk about this one. Tell me about Rosemary's Baby.
I thought you knew all about it as well.
I don't know anything about Rosemary's Baby.
Well, Rosemary's Baby was a 1968 Roman Polanski film, and it is quite a creepy movie. I've seen it myself. Mm-hmm. The film's composer died of a brain clot 1 year after making the film, the same way as a character in the film does. Then the producer, William Castle, suffered kidney failure soon after the film was made, and swore the movie was cursed after crying out, "Rosemary, for God's sake, drop that knife," whilst he was being treated. Very bizarre. May have just been done to plug the movie. The curse is mainly built around the insanely bad luck of Roman Polanski. I mean, it's like the old joke, what goes into 13 twice? Roman Polanski. Ah, hey! Let's go again. And in March 1969, Polanski bought a house for himself and his 8-month pregnant wife, Sharon Tate. Fortunately, Polanski had broken the first rule of real estate: never buy a house from someone who keyed off Charles Manson. Yeah. The former owner of the house. Yeah. Well, the former owner of the house was music producer Terry Melcher, who had previously refused to record Manson's music. Manson expressed his disappointment by ordering his cult to go to the Polanski house where they killed Sharon Tate, her unborn baby, and 4 others, stabbing the victims multiple times. Yeah. After the murders, one of the killers took a rag, soaked up some of Tate's blood, and wrote "pig" on the front door with it. And unfortunately, things go a lot worse because of all that. I mean, that's bad enough as it is. But poor old guy. Polanski was in London at the time and thus survived the murders that happened there. But although he did go on to have a successful career, his film Pirates flopped. But apart from that and a little thing about not getting your numbers right and age and things like that, yeah. But his wife and just so... that's so bad. His wife and unborn child and 4 others. All because the previous owners peed off Charles Manson. You know? And that's where the link, or that all comes to, Roman Polanski and Rosemary Baby. But that's just... I think a lot of these curses are just coincidence and people blaming things that have happened. Oh, it's a curse! No, it's not, actually. It's just that happened.
Exactly. I mean, there can be many, many times when someone's cursed or said, has cursed something and nothing's happened. You know, for every one occasion, there's probably 10 that's never done any big difference whatsoever. So, no, I can't think a very unfortunate coincidence.
Well, the most tenuous link to that is after their murder spree, the Mansons named their murder spree Helter Skelter after the Beatles song. And later on, John Lennon would be murdered outside his hotel, the Dakota, and this was the same hotel that was used in some scenes for Rosemary's Baby.
See, coincidence builds on coincidence builds on coincidence.
Yes,
you know what I mean? And also, you have to remember the circles these people moved in. They would have used the same sort of hotels. You know, when you start building up the picture, you go, it's not so much of a coincidence. It's just the circles that they moved in at the time.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Now, I do want to, Andy, you've written a book recently about English folklore and curses, haven't you?
Oh, yes. My book's a collection of incantation spells and magic from basically the books I was referencing were mainly published in the Victorian age, but they go back sort of the last couple of 100 years where these people the Victorian folklorists have collected these stories and tales, myths and legends, but amongst those were actual proper examples of curses and charms and incantations. And I've actually got a chapter that's called Curses to Make and to Break. So I've got some genuine examples here if you'd like me to read some to you.
Go on then.
Okay, let's find a good one. Where's the one I had just now? Here's a curse against... I lost the bloody pages. There we go. Hold on. Oh, it's a curse, a gateway, or a gate. Very easy, really. A bespellment. Bespellment is a very old-fashioned word for a spell. With hurt and hate, I charm this gate. He shall not keep, or soon or late. So your gate won't work.
That.
Just say it to your gate and it won't work. These are actually really simple. A curse to drive someone insane. All you have to do, this is the actual wording, to drive a person insane, a medicine man would fling into his face a wisp of straw. You can drive someone insane by just throwing some straw at them. There you go. Here's a much
just
more...
get a squirrel and flick him in the nadgers. Throw that at him. That's going to be a worse curse than anything else. He'll kill you. He will.
Well, here's a actual curse to be said to curse a witch. Madam Noy, you ugly old bitch. You shall be the gout, parsley and itch. All the eggs in your hen shall lay henceforth she'll be addle. Those are not very good. All the hens you have in the pit and die with the straddle. And here the majority fine, madam, have done, for her favourite copies shall possess one. It doesn't make any sense at all, I know, but that's the language.
Don't mince your words, Andy. I mean, don't muck about. You know, you just come out with the the truth. Go on.
Yeah, the first line's a good one. Then, Madam Noy, the old bitch, you shall have the gout, the parsley, and itch.
Ooh, gout and an itch. That sounds very exciting. Saturday night, quite frankly.
I've got a West Country one for you.
Okay.
Because as you may or may not know, you people out there in listener land, I lived in the West Country for 20 years. But Old women frequently cut a turf a foot long, which their enemy has recently trodden upon, and then they hang it up in their chimney to cause the enemy to wither away.
Ooh.
Like the grass does when it dries.
So do these things actually have power?
Well, this is an interesting point because a little more complex than we have so far given them credit for. Particularly the ones I'm talking about here from sort of early Victorian age and earlier than that even, you didn't really have a whole lot of recourse to anything else if someone was to have wronged you or committed a crime against you. The police, until obviously Victoria, didn't really exist. Even in the countryside, there wasn't a lot around. So you really didn't have much of a recourse to any other form of retribution for crimes against you. So to curse somebody or to use often the old wise woman of the village to get her to curse somebody could be seen as quite a powerful thing. And of course, if you believe a curse is going to work the person you're cursing believes they work and is frightened by it, and all sorts of things could possibly happen. So that's really why they kind of played an important part, particularly rural folklife, because it was the only real recourse they had to any kind of dealing with anyone who'd wronged a person or had done anything against them. So, again, you're talking about very much rural people who, unfortunately, not the best educated in the world, and obviously were afraid of the church, etc., but also were afraid of the power of the devil and that sort of thing. So often hearing sermons on a Sunday, the devil's going to take their soul, and you have to do this and that to warn off.
Puritan.
Exactly, or even just general clergy would be like that, using the threat of supernatural punishment by the devil to ensure people would toe the line. So if someone did something wrong, of course you had.
That's when they made them scared of cunning men and hedge witches, isn't it?
Well, cunning men were your recall. They were the people you'd go to if you thought you had been cursed by a witch. A lot of the spells in my book are actually anti-witchcraft spells that would be used by the cunning men and wise women of the village, who would be seen as the good guys, the people who would help out against the bad, evil, nasty witch person doing horrible things. But of course, I did find quite a few actual curses as well in the books I was using, so I had to include those. But predominantly the ones I've got are anti-witchcraft, sort of battling against it.
Oh, I mean, it's like it's as you say. I mean, hundreds of years we've been brought up that, oh, this is good, this is bad. If you do this, you'll go straight down there. You'll this and no, really, because a lot of the stuff that they say we're going to go straight down there for is actually in your DNA, and you're going to do it anyway. But there's also the other thing, as you were saying, with belief and superstition and everything like that. If you are petrified of what the religion says is going to happen to you, and you think that's going to happen, you're going to believe it. You're going to think that's going to happen, and you hear the slightest rumor or person naysay or whatever about you, and the slightest thing, oh, they put a curse on you. Did they? And that's it. You're going to get ill. You're going to feel ill. Like the old one about boring a hole in a tree, getting somebody you don't like, getting their hair, putting it in the hole in the tree, and then covering that hole back up again. They think it's going to give them a headache that they can't get rid of until you take the hair out of the tree. Nonsense!
They will work if the person believes they're going to have their effect.
Exactly.
But
it's
surely,
like the placebo.
Sorry, to play devil's advocate on that one, first of all, you've got to get the lock of hair, and secondly, the person's got to know about it to believe in it.
That's just what I said. If they think it's happened, they're going to be like, oh, bugger,
They're being told. I mean, that's the idea. The witch would curse you to your face, not sort of in the background behind sort of closed doors. It would be, I curse ye,
exactly.
to your face. So you were like, oh, God, no, don't I do that.
Like the blessings be upon this house when they come in.
Yeah.
Be upon you for not giving me your greenery.
So do we think then that it's all down to belief systems? I mean, these curses, I think, that we've discussed tonight about the films have all been media driven for almost like publicity reasons. Yeah. So bad things have happened and then the media jump on it, whether that be back in the 16th century or modern day films, like 1970s films, even more modern times than that, and then the media link it all together and as I say, maybe, allegedly, change facts a little bit, like tweak it a little bit to then build a story.
What's the old saying? What's that saying about any form of publicity?
No publicity is bad publicity.
There you go.
And wasn't that an Aleister Crowley comment?
Well,
yes, it was. Yes.
Believed that, and we could literally actually said that word for word verbatim. I don't know, but that was very much his attitude. With any publicity was good, no matter how bad. But yes, I mean, certainly we were talking about horror films and curses. Of course, that's going to be great publicity for them. So, of course, there's any kind of suggestion, maybe possibly slightly, a cursing link to the horror film, then of course they're going to broadcast it to the world.
Yeah, exactly.
And kudos to the film. So, I think what we were saying as well, I think with a lot of these sorts of things, if you believe they're going to work, then there's a chance your mind and your brain and your body will act accordingly and allow them to work.
Exactly. I mean, I, as you just said, back then when we were, how can I put it? Back then when we used to pee in rivers, and that's where the River Piddle gets its name from, we would believe stuff like that. But nowadays we're a bit more, really? You know,
But are we? When we look at things like the Poltergeist movie and the Exorcist movie and the Superman curse, do you know what I mean? When we start looking at that, I mean, there's an even more modern day curse than that, which is the 27 Club, which is all the musicians that have died at the age of 27.
Mm.
True.
Again,
but they go on about the Crossroads curse, aren't you?
No. This is the 27 Club. This is a completely different thing. It's not the Crossroads curse. That's something completely different.
Well, the Crossroads curse, Robert Johnson died at the age of 27.
Yes, he's the originator of the curse, if you like.
Oh, okay, yeah. Sorry, I got confused, because I was thinking more Amy Winehouse.
Oh, it all started
and Kurt
with
Cobain.
him. Yeah, exactly. They were all 27, but it started with that guy.
Yes,
right.
Yes.
God, do your research!
Well, I did. I've just got so much. I mean, a big shout out, actually, to Kerry Ann. So thank you so much, Kerry Ann, because this week has been manic for me, and she went away, and honestly, I have got pages and pages of research that I read through, so I wasn't able to retain all the information that she sent me, bless her. But thank you so much, Kerry Ann, for that. I know you're in the background out there, but she is out there doing work for Parasearch. She sent me this about I'd never heard of this, the 27 Club.
You want me to just start you off with that, about where it originally started from?
Go on then.
Legendary bluesman Robert Johnson. They did a film with Ralph Macchio in it about that as well, called The Crossroads. Brilliant movie. He was killed at the age of 27, and his death is said to have spawned a curse. Basically, legend unfolds like this. Johnson always loved the blues, and he really, really, really wanted to play the guitar, but it was a bit pants. And he disappeared for a long time. And during that time, he was said to have sold his soul to the devil by making a Crossroads deal. In exchange for the unparalleled, unrivaled talent with the guitar, he would be a blues master composing songs about the Crossroads and hellhounds on his trail, etc., etc., etc. And Johnson's ability basically made him popular with many, especially the ladies, but there were some who were suspicious and jealous of his talents as well, particularly the ladies' husbands. And in 1938, he was supposedly given a bottle of wine which had been poisoned by one jealous spouse, and he died a long, agonising death, and he was only 27. And since that day, it's been said that many musicians, especially those of high quality, would succumb to the curse and die, i.e. they would make a pact, make a deal, and die at the height of their careers at the age of 27.
Which is true, because, as I said, Kurt Cobain, Amy Winehouse, Jimi Hendrix, Janis Joplin, Jim Henderson, Robert Johnson, Alan Wilson, Brian Jones, Kristen Piaf, whatever you say her name, Lisa. There's a long list of people that have died at the height of their career. So this brings it into modern times. It brings the curse into modern times.
Roughly one every 3 years since the original one.
So what would you make of that, Andy?
Well, it's this really powerful force that we often don't really take into our consideration, that really has to be seen as the main arbiter, the main sort of power behind all this. This is an amazing thing called coincidence.
I was waiting for him to say that.
How many other pop stars and rock stars have lived beyond 27 and not died? Just one of those things. I think it's just one of those things. we're trying to attribute, and again, it goes back to ancient times, trying to attribute supernatural intelligences behind things that are actually quite straightforward. It's just coincidence, because there are hundreds of thousands of pop stars that potentially have much more dangerous lifestyles who live on them. I mean, look at the bloody Rolling Stones, for God's sake. Most of
this
them
is true.
And yet they continue to go on. I think what's his face is...
It's because they were pickled in formaldehyde in the 60s.
Are we talking Keith... What's his name?
Richards?
Yeah, Keith Richards.
He's
so good at this, aren't we?
He's made out of old leather and mulberries. Shush! Shush! She agrees. Our own personal poltergeist hound agrees.
Yes.
Well, that's good. I mean, this is the thing with curses, isn't it? It's I think there's a double-edged sword with this one. You have the belief system in the curse, which perpetuates it.
Mm-hmm.
I think there's the media-driven side of it that will link any misfortune going on at the time to make it more feasible that it's a curse.
Yes.
And also, I think it's a linking of facts by people who are involved in the situation. I mean, particularly with the movies, when you're I can imagine, I've never been obviously on a horror film set, but when you're surrounded with that script and that symbology that's around you on the film set and, the props and the situations you're acting to react to,
yes,
that surely must link something into your psyche that then starts thinking that bad thing happened, that bad thing happened, that bad thing happened, and it's that dark side of people that then start linking it together.
Well, it's like the Hope Diamond as well. I mean, that was allegedly...
we have together.
Sorry, Andy?
Okay, don't worry, carry on.
Okay.
Carry on.
Well, the Hope Diamond, for my personal opinion, I looked obviously into the Hope Diamond, the mystery of the Hope Diamond curse. Now, the Hope Diamond is an absolutely astonishing crystal that was formed. But again, it's been built up around, the way it was stolen originally through greed, and then it went through the French Revolution, and Mary Antoinette has been linked to it, and Louis the blah blah 16th, 15th,
Louis the 14th, and Louis the 16th.
I can never understand these X1Vs. Why don't you just
X
put
is
the
10,
number?
V is 5, and the I is 1. If the I is before another number, it's the one before that. So if you've got
so that's the 14th.
IV is 4 and VI is 6.
Right, so it's the 14th.
Yeah.
Okay.
14th and the 16th, there was two King Louis.
I love the way we're wasting time on that when we're the last 2 minutes of the show. Anyway, basically, when you start looking at it, it's a sensationalised story that anybody who comes into contact with this diamond, bearing in mind the worth of this diamond, is astronomical. And the history, when you follow it through the history, it's only ever going to be with high wealth families or royalty or people, and greed comes into play. And when you look at the families, if you look at any family, you can break it down to crap happens. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But they attribute it to the fact that this diamond is in their family. So no, I don't think the diamond itself is cursed. I think the people around it are probably full of greed, and they link any misfortune to the fact that they've had this contact with a diamond. Quite frankly, I mean, this diamond is extraordinary. When you look into the Hope Diamond, it is extraordinary as a gem.
Well, it is. It's a diamond. They're pretty extraordinary at the best of times. So
it's extraordinary.
Extraordinary.
Well, I mean, if you're going to talk about curses and people being cursed, look at our family. My father passed away, had cancer 5 times, and I'm still here. And then our son passed away, and trying desperately to get a house, nothing happened, and now we're moving out because we're moving 300 miles away. Some people would say that's a curse. No, absolute nonsense. Just a series of coincidences.
Exactly. Unfortunately, that does happen. As what I was just briefly saying was, it's a natural propensity of humans to look for patterns, whether they be patterns in objects we look at, patterns in sounds we hear, patterns in things that happen. It's the way our minds work. It's the structuring of understanding reality around us. Everything is just random, and to say that awful coincidences occur. You can argue it quite coherently that there is a dark evil curse around a person's life because lots of bad things happen, but bad things happen. It's one of those unfortunate realities, and it is easy for us to look for those patterns and say, "Oh, look, there's the reason why." Try and find an explanation for something that's inexplicable. It just, excuse the French, SHIT happens.
It is. I mean, definitely, yeah. I mean,
and
look
our
at the
brains are wired. It has been a proven fact that our brains are wired to search for patterns.
Yes,
I think I just said that.
I know you did. I'm just reiterating the point, baby. Now, listen, we have come to the end of the show. On that note, we have come to the end of the show. Thank you so much for listening and joining us in the chat room. Now, if you've missed any of the shows throughout the week, then you can catch up through the podcasts on Spreaker or on our YouTube channel. Subscribe to see any of the most recent uploads that go on there. Thank you so much for joining us, Andy. It's been an absolute pleasure as always.
It's been good fun. I do enjoy doing this.
Yes, thank you. I must admit, it's not bad when you come on and then start talking about, oh no, it's not that. We all sit back and go, we know it's going to happen.
Like I say, he's the voice of reason amongst the silly things we find to research.
Well, it would be a Dark Mirror show if we didn't.
Well, we do like to bring a little light relief on a Friday for you guys. Thank you so much for listening. Thank you, Mark. Good night.
Yes, good night. And please, everybody out there in Radio Land and in the chat room, thank you for listening. And please be sure to tune in next week when we talk about Kerry's curse and the phantom wine bottle.
Well, at least we didn't get an alien in there. Good night, Andy Mercer.
In the bottle.
Good night.
Good night, guys.
Thank you for listening. Don't forget to join us for more shows throughout the week. Find us on Facebook, Twitter, and the World Wide Web to keep up to date with all the shows right here on Parasearch Radio.